AD 1982. The fifth year of the series of mysterious deaths in Hamanazawa, also known as Oshiro-sama's Curse, 1 year prior to Kiichi Mahabara's transfer. I didn't hear a wake-up chime. I'm not in school anymore. My brain is half asleep, but I'm aware of that. Waking up at the same time as the chime would go off at school doesn't feel good. I can't go back to sleep after this. Still, I'm not going to live a torturous school life anymore. I can make today either happy or boring. It's up to me. Yeah, that's really positive. I feel like I'm alive for the first time in a while. I didn't have any other clothes, so I was still wearing the school track uniform. It's supposed to have been designed by some famous Italian person, but it just looks plain to me. It really doesn't feel great to still be in clothes from that school. I want to enjoy my freedom as soon as possible. I especially don't want to walk around outside wearing it. I should have Kasai bring me some new clothes later. And I should think of redecorating this room. After all, this is going to be my castle from now on. This room is in a gorgeous apartment building in the suburbs of Okinomiya. The property is one a realtor in my dad's conglomerate obtained after foreclosure due to some sort of dispute. Most of the residents moved out during that. So, while there are plenty of rooms, it's a lonely complex that feels devoid of people. Plus, with the exception of the manager and a scant 1 or 2 others, all the residents are shady-looking people connected to my dad. It probably won't be much longer before the virtuous residents are driven out. The apartment I'm living in used to be the room they used for viewings, so it looks like a room in a business hotel. It's fully furnished, but lacking in daily necessities. I'll buy those things over time, though. Sorry, I'm slipping on my words. It's better that way anyway. It'll make me feel more like my own room. I nodded to myself. It might have looked stupid, but it helped psych me up. At the school, there's a TV only in the common room, and we weren't allowed to watch any cable channels. I zipped through all those channels as a form of emancipation. It was early in the morning, so nothing interesting was on. But I enjoyed it anyway. Commercials are fun to watch. Kasai dropped by with lunch right when I started to feel hungry.
Good morning, Shion-san. Did you sleep well last night?
Sleeping on the couch was a bit too uncomfortable. As a Japanese person, I want to sleep in a futon on the floor. Ah, this pickled radish is good.
That's good to hear. Please let me know what you need later on. I'll try to get as much as I can.
Thanks. Oh, but you don't need to worry so much about me. I chose this life for myself anyway. And your wallet wouldn't last if I started extorting you, right? I have to be serious about my plan. I can't let myself take advantage of Kasai's wallet forever. I think I'm going to start a part-time job. I have to earn my own living. This is the life I chose, so naturally I have to take care of it myself.
That's reassuring to hear. But are you sure? If you go outside, eventually someone in the family will discover you.
I gave that a little thought, which is why I'll need Mion's help. Kasai, would you mind calling the main house for me? When Mion answers, pass me the receiver.
Oh, well, whatever you say. What could be your plan?
Kasai dialed the number. It's funny to me that we are calling the main house, even though it's the place I most wanted to avoid at the moment.
Hello? Good morning. Is this Mion-san? It's been a while. This is Kasai. Yes. Good morning. Could you hold for a moment? I'm letting someone else on the phone.
I take the headset. Hello? Can you tell who this is? That voice. But that can't be true. Shion's still supposed to be confined at St. Lucia's. You can't be her. Yeah, they forbid outside calls at the academy, but you're talking to me right now. Even my dim-witted older sister should understand what that means. Did you sneak out of the school? How? That's not important. I really missed you, sis. Shion! That was as far as I could take it, and Mion had hit her limit, too. We both burst out into laughter, unable to keep up our act. It's been a while since we laughed out loud with each other like this. It's been forever, Shion. Seriously, what happened with you? There's not much else to it. I haven't lied or anything. Wait, then you really ran away? Oh, great job. The security wasn't tight enough to keep me locked up in there. Maybe the school should be grateful you escaped quietly. If you were serious, it'd be easy for you to blow up the whole building and make your escape. Well, I couldn't have done that, but I might have set it on fire. Kasai smiled at us in amazement. His face was a blend of amusement and exasperation. Is it okay to talk to you now? It's alright. Granny is out for a lesson. She's coming home later in the evening. That's good. Should we get together and talk soon? Just over the phone for today, though. Oh, wait. We should get together and talk soon. Just over the phone for today, though. Okay. Did anybody report my escape to our grandmother? Nope. We've heard nothing. I pass along all the calls and guests for the main family now, so no news reaches Granny without going through me. I'm sure she doesn't know. Wow, that's awesome. You really sound like the next leader of the Sonozaki family. You know I don't like that. You should have taken my place. You're the one with the demon, aren't you? Well, keep giving it your all. I'll be rooting for you from the shadows. Anyway, that's not important now. You sound so indifferent. Well, that's okay, I guess. If you hear anything about me, give Kasai a call, okay? I'd like to give you my number here, but I'll keep it a secret for the time being. Sorry. Alright. If Granny hears you fled the school, there'll be all kinds of trouble. I'll be on the lookout for now, and I'll let Kasai-san know if something happens. Thanks. I also have a favor to ask. I figured you would. Oh, money's out of the question, okay? I never thought I could pester you for money. I just wanted to ask you for a little help with my part-time job. I see. So that's it then? What exactly do you need? We can communicate fast in a situation like this. We don't have to get into all the details because we know what's on each other's minds. Uncle Yoshiro's on my side, isn't he? Yoshiro? I'm going to try and see if I can't get a part-time job at one of the businesses he owns. Then I'll call you when I know my shift. So, I just have to disappear while you're working, right? That's a little taxing. What are you saying, sis? Are you turning down your only sister's request? Seriously? Alright, I'll do it. I wouldn't want to see how you'd retaliate if I turn you down. Thanks. I'll buy you a cake from Schlanke Bertha's. Schlanke Bertha's. Sure. I'll throw in tons of pretty tarts, too. Shion? Schlanke Bertha closed this last fall. Huh? Is that so? Yeah, the owner had a stroke. He reopened the store once, but he got sick again, so he had to shut it down. Huh. I see. That's a shame. I won't be able to eat their Mont Blanc cakes to my heart's content anymore. I was disappointed that my favorite cake shop had closed down, but more so that this town had changed without me knowing while I was gone. It was kind of regrettable. Are there any other changes I don't know about? Yeah, there are some. I'll tell you when we meet up next time. Thanks. I'll tell you about my school life. Let's set a date. I'll call you. Alright. I'll see you then. Mion? What is it? How are you? I'm fine. I'm glad to hear that. I'm hanging up now. Okay. See you. It's really been a while since I last talked to her. I put down the phone and heaved a sigh as Kasai brought in some tea.
So, how did it go?
Do you remember Uncle Yoshiro, who was in favor of me staying? I'll talk to him about my escape, and ask him if he can hire me to work at one of his stores.
Are you sure? Some other relative might find out.
That's why I asked Sis a favor. I'll contact her when my shift is set, and she'll disappear when I'm working. Do you get the picture? Kasai looked puzzled. It's not really that difficult to grasp. It's simple. If somebody finds me at work, I'll tell them that I'm Mion. Do you get it now? Normal people wouldn't buy this kind of plan, but Kasai knew too well how easy it is for my sis and me to trade places.
That's audacious, or shrewd, I should say. I'm impressed.
Is that a compliment, Kasai? Kasai looked amazed. If things go south, it'll affect him too. Considering the rules of my dad's profession, he won't be able to get away with just a mere apology. That's why he doesn't want me to do anything too risky. I think I'll have to make it up to him, since he's helped me escape even knowing this risk. Alright, no problem. If I find somebody talking bad about you, I'll beat them up. I don't know who's talking. Who is this? Ahahaha! Thank you so much. Oh. Oh, okay. Okay, now I have it. Hold on. We'll restart the scene. Going back. As I hit all my micro equipment. Okay.
Alright, no problem. If I find somebody talking bad about you, I'll beat them up.
Thank you so much. I knew I could rely on you, Uncle Yoshiro. Uncle Yoshiro pounded his chest with his fist after offering me his assurance. He seemed glad that I turned to him first.
I'd be happy to help, since I'm so impressed that you're trying to support yourself. If you were here for money, I'd turn you in to your grandmother right away.
What? You're scaring me, Uncle. I knew he was reliable. He understood my situation straight away and promised to help.
Manager, here's the shift chart. I'll put it here.
One of the store clerks brought out a work schedule. There are many things I'm unfamiliar with written on it.
So, how much can you work?
That depends on our respective schedules. I hope I can get in when I want to.
Hey, that sounds a little irresponsible, but I know you're in a difficult situation.
I'm depending on Mion for my work. Our schedules have to match. Of course, Uncle Yoshiro understood that, but I also knew he couldn't afford a selfish part-timer who only works when she wants to. In the end, he decided to hire me as an official helper, not an official worker. As a temp, I wouldn't have to work a schedule. My uncle also decided to pay me out of his own pocket. That's fine as long as I can make enough to support myself.
Sure, sure. I expect to get what I'm paying for, okay? And don't call me uncle in the office either.
Alright, manager. Thanks for hiring me.
Good, you get it.
Once all the business talk was over, my uncle hounded me with all kinds of questions. He asked me things like, what was it like in the prestigious girls' boarding school? And so on. Apparently, there were all kinds of rumors going around about the St. Lucia Academy I was confined to, and everyone was curious about it. I added a few embellishments of my own as I explained how unordinary life had been at that school. My uncle looked extremely delighted to hear that all the little details about life in a secret garden for girls. Horny bastard. Once my uncle was satisfied, it was my turn to ask all kinds of questions. I wanted to know if anything peculiar had happened while I was gone. I won't be able to act like Mion unless I fill in the gap of information left in the past 2 years.
There haven't been many big changes. It's been quiet since the end of the dam conflict.
I went to the academy only a bit after they froze the project. There was still a bit of tension then.
Even after they shut down the construction, things were still tense because the project wasn't entirely cancelled. But the Onigafuchi Guardians disbanded about a year later. There was a big ceremony held at the shrine. That's when the dam conflict officially ended.
That's right, after I was imprisoned. Is everybody slacking now that the conflict is over?
I guess you had all fun playing at war back then during the dam protest, didn't you? Try to imagine how much suffering the adults went through every time they had to come pick up their kids from the police station.
Well, I can't deny that. It was like a festival for us. Uncle Yoshiro seemed exasperated at how differently kids and adults treated the conflict. Oh, yeah. There was that dismemberment murder, wasn't there? The one where that fucking jerk of a construction manager got split into pieces. They still haven't caught the culprit behind that, have they? Did they finally catch him?
Come to think of it, I don't think they've caught him yet, no.
It happened on the night of the Watanagashi, didn't it? I remember everyone making a fuss about it being Oshiro-sama's curse. That was pretty scary for us kids.
Yeah. Oshiro-sama's curse. That happened the year after, too.
That's right. That was scary too, wasn't it? Who was it again? That guy who supported the dam died in an accident, right? Hujo, wasn't it? And it happened on the day of the Watanagashi once again? Everyone went crazy, saying it had to be a curse. That was horrifying. Definitely. The construction manager that everyone hated was killed and dismembered on the night of the Watanagashi festival. That incident, on its own, was more than intense enough for us kids. Worse, part of his body was never found, which made it almost a ghost story among us. We seriously believed that the severed right arm was roaming in search of the body it belonged to. It didn't take long for the rumor of Oshiro-sama's curse to become a topic of discussion among the occult researchers and the like, considering the circumstantial factors. Even so, the rumor faded away after about a year. After the dam project was officially frozen, we held Watanagashi purely as a festival. But the curse struck again. The victim was a pro-dam activist who lived in Haminazawa by the name of Hujo. He and his wife were on the trip when they fell from a cliff to their deaths. It was considered an accident. Technically, police were still searching for the wife's body. If I remember right, they never did find it, did they? Once again, the man most worthy of Oshiro-sama's curse fell victim on the night of the Watanagashi festival. So the fuss over Oshiro-sama's curse rose up again. Until then, Oshiro-sama wasn't considered very important. At least in the world of us kids, it was just the name of the objects of worship in the shrine, nothing more than that. I'd seen boys peeing on the archway, and I once stuck my hand into the offertory box. The existence of a god didn't matter much to us. But after 2 consecutive occurrences, the kids no longer doubted the existence of a curse. We were all shaking in fear of Oshiro-sama. Everybody suddenly became interested in the old stories about him, too. We quietly listened to the musty old stories the elders had to tell, and we started genuinely believing in the tales of Oshiro-sama's miracles, which many of us would have laughed away before. Oshiro-sama's rules were awfully simple and clear. Enemies treading into Hamanazawa will be cursed. Villagers leaving the village will be cursed. What defined the village was terribly vague. Where we never allowed to leave Hamanazawa village, was going to Okunomiya still safe? Was a single step enough to be out? Was a 3-day, 2-nights hot spring trip still safe? We kids tried to draw a line. It was decided at the end that if you had a house in Hamanazawa or Okunomiya, you were safe. And it was okay to go on trips if you had a house in either area. I know it's weird, but those rules were made up by kids after all. According to those rules, I'd be cursed since I lived at a boarding school in such a remote area. I couldn't say it out loud because I felt embarrassed. But in fact, I was a little scared of the curse.
Yeah, it happened again the year after.
It sure is scary when it happens 2 years in a row. I still believe in Oshiro-sama's power.
Shion-chan, what are you saying? Don't you know?
No. About what?
Oh, right. You went to that school before it happened. That's why you don't know.
Uncle Yoshiro grimaced as if he said too much, as though he mentioned something that I shouldn't know about. What is it? You can't leave me hanging like that.
Well, I think you're mature enough now.
Hey, if you think my body looks underdeveloped, you should see an eye doctor. Either that or you're a pedo.
Okay. I'll talk. It happened again the year after that.
What happened? What are you talking about? Tick. When I was very little, I always had this tick before I heard something bad. It was like a gnome who lived inside me was giving me a warning, like he was poking me with a small needle. When I felt this tick before my parents called me, they always either chide me or tell me something bad. So I used to run away when I felt it. But my senses seem to have grown dull over the years. Even though my gnome poked at me, I just sat there.
It happened again the year after the death of the Hujos. Last year, in other words.
Did it? It happened on the day of the Watanagashi. Again? 3 years in a row?
That's right. You know there's a shrine in Hamanazawa. The Furude Shrine. The priest suddenly died on the night of the festival. They said that that the cause of death was an unknown illness. And the same night, his wife threw herself onto the swamp. There was a big uproar. The mayor even had to hold an emergency meeting. I don't think the bit about the illness is true, but his death was very sudden. The priest was busy preparing for the festival, and he'd gotten sick around that time. so I guess he died of a heart attack or something.
But it's just crazy that someone died on the same day of the Watanagashi again. It's the third time in a row. It's unbelievable that so many people have died on the same exact day.
The coroner didn't find anything unusual about the cause of death, so nobody suspected anything was wrong. But you're right that the whole situation is abnormal.
Only the people who were likely to be cursed died on the day of the festival. There must be something behind this. Whether it's a conspiracy or a curse, there has to be. I decided to meet up with Mion at the library near the Okonomiya train station. It's not that I don't... Wait. Okay, gonna pause here. That felt a little odd. It was like that was the end of the conversation with that. Why was that not before the break? That's a weird pacing thing. Alright, let's go back. Restart. It's not that I don't trust Mion, but I don't want her to let her know where I live. Not many people use this library, so I won't see anyone from Hamanazawa here. It's very convenient for meeting someone in secret. After we discussed my life plan and work schedule, we moved to small talk. I've been away from this town for years. Things have changed. I asked Mion about those changes in detail in order to fill in the gaps. While talking about various things, I brought up what Uncle Yoshiro had told me about Oshiro-sama's curse. Even before I left town, the curse had already struck twice. The dismemberment murder in the first year left quite an impact. And the year after, the pro-dam activist couple fell off the cliff on the day the villagers were enjoying their first Watanagashi festival since the dam project was indefinitely frozen. This one also left quite the impact. The evil construction site manager was punished, and the next year the traitor to the village met the same fate. If it had happened only once, people would have concluded that it was just a bizarre coincidence. But when it happened 2 years in a row, people were far more likely to believe it was a curse. I know up to that part. And after I left town, the curse struck again for the third time. People talked about the curse more intensely than ever, both in Hamanazawa and Okonomiya. I have to rethink this. Oshiro-sama's curse has drastically gained credibility while I was away. It was still unclear with the first two incidents, but after it continued for 3 years straight, people's doubts changed to convictions. Even though the priest who died on the third year wasn't an enemy of the villagers. In fact, the fact that people in Hamanazawa didn't care for him much added even more credibility to the idea. Wasn't the priest hated by a few? Especially by the committee members? Yeah, they criticized him for being a fence-sitter. Toward the end of the dam conflict, the protesters were all taking aggressive stances, so they didn't like how soft he was being. The priest had looked strict and scary. The way he spoke was always so formal. But in reality, he was very warm and reserved. Maybe it was because he was his son-in-law having married into his family. I'm sure the priest and his personality were the perfect fit for managing the shrine that was used for the summer festivals and village meetings. But that gathering spot-style atmosphere of the shrine changed completely when the dam war broke out and it became the headquarters for the Onigafuchi Guardians. Prior to the dam protests, hardly anybody worshipped Oshiro-sama. Of course, the devout elders paid worship to him, but the average person treated our god like how you'd treat a fortune-telling. Once the dam protests began, Oshiro-sama was suddenly hauled out as the symbol of the village's resistance. Tracing the Oshiro-sama faith back to its roots, it was an exclusive elitist faith that believed its members were descended from a holy ancestor, different from the masses at the foot of the mountain, and that those tainted masses should never come near the village. Of course, such self-centered ideology wasn't acceptable anymore in peaceful post-war Japan. so this doctrine was abandoned over time. Still, the idea remained, and they trudged it back up to fan the flames of nationalism to unite the town against the dam project. With the revival of those ideas, things only grew more radical by the day, and it didn't take very long for the Onigafuchi Guardians to become more aggressive. After that, we were in a state of war. 100 million burning as one. Kill the white savages. What want not but victory? Adults and kids were both gnawing at the bit of learning to repel the foreign invader, avid to repel the foreign invaders. Describing it like that makes it sound kind of awful, like a reminder of the dark times of wartime Japan. But, like I said before, for us kids, it felt like a war. It felt less like a war and more like a village-wide festival. Yet, despite calling it a festival, dissenters were treated coldly. Their heartlessness lived up to the expression wartime regime. The Hujo couple who voiced their acceptance of their dam project in the midst of all that atmosphere were truly brave. Then, on the second year of the curse, they died in an accident, and everyone believed it was Oshiro-sama's curse without question, so they were branded traitors and enemies of the village. The Hujo couple faced worse than just being ostracized as traitors. Everyone gave them the cold shoulder and talked behind their backs. The only person who didn't treat them badly was the priest. While the priest never objected to the anti-dam movement, he also never objected to the Hujo couple's advocacy for accepting the government's eviction and restitution to rebuild new lives. Those unforgivable Hujos became a slogan as the three families, especially the Sonozakis, united the village by turning them into scapegoats. So, they must have found it all very shameful to have a fellow member of the three families approve of that, especially when it was the priest of the shrine that had become a symbol for the dam protests. As central figures in Hamanazawa, the three families were the backbone of the Onigafuchi Guardians, so a difference of opinion was undesirable. And the priest was never accused of anything. But secretly, people whispered that he was a heretic and that he was unfit to serve as Oshiro-sama's priest. That Oshiro-sama's curse would soon strike him down, along with other rumors. Don't you think that the priest was more mature than those around him? He was pretty cool, managing to keep his head and remain neutral while everyone around him grew fervent. I thought Mion would share my opinion when I chimed back in. So when Mion gave me a forced smile and didn't agree with me, I was taken by surprise. If he really were mature, I think he would have cooperated with the others. He should have appeased them. He wasn't just the head priest, he was also the head of the Furude family. That was a time when all of Hamanazawa needed to be united, so having one of the families, who are supposed to serve as examples, disturb that harmony was... I don't know if it should be called mature. It's hard for me to tell. I was taken aback. I barely managed to say the following. Uh-huh? Even though we were identical twins, we still had our own unique identities. Every now and then our opinions differed, but usually only over some trivial matter. We've never had a difference of opinion this big. It wasn't an enjoyable feeling. I decided to probe her some more. I don't really like the word you used. Appease? What are you trying to say? Are you saying that the priest should have thought of the village as a whole and kept his opinions a secret? Meaning people shouldn't assert the self before the whole? I'm not going that far. It's just... I thought that, as a member of the three families, he should have acted more carefully, that's what I mean. Mion faltered a bit as my tone grew more like a cross-examination. I realized I was speaking a bit too harshly. What Mion expressed was probably the more mature opinion on our scale. When everyone needs to work together to stand up to a vast enemy like the government, people should refrain from actions that would destabilize that alliance. Writing it out and reading it now, I can understand that. But I wasn't mature enough to agree to such a totalitarian idea. Or maybe it wasn't me at all. It was Mion who'd made that mature judgment. We've been separated for over a year. I've been away from the town. In the meantime, Mion has been training to take over the headship of the Sonozaki family. She'd been treated as such even before I was confined to that institution. She sat next to the hag in ceremonies and in meetings. She took her place when the hag was absent. But that was just it. We were never that different. Mion has become very like a successor since I've been gone. Aha. You sound like a grown-up now. She seemed to get what I was implying. Am I thinking like Granny now? That's good. You're the successor. You shouldn't think like the rest. You've definitely learned the art of ruling. I never learned anything like that. I'm just trying to act like her. You can do it easily, too. I don't want to. It's your role. Well, don't try too hard or you'll tire yourself out. I didn't mean to be cold, but Mion seemed to take it that way. She smiled as if trying to pacify me. I smiled gently back at her. Mion. What? What is it? Our separation has always been tough. Our names, the places where we live, and our bodies. Mion looked down with a serious face, but then looked right back up. Maybe you think I'm jealous of that, but I'm not. We used to have some disagreements, but they were always small and forgettable. You don't have to feel sorry for anything. Up until birth, we were perfectly equal. Right after birth, we were separated by the grown-ups' priorities. I used to get mad about it when I was little. There's no denying that. But we don't have to start a disagreement over it. Mion seems to understand what I'm trying to say. We each have our own characteristics, even though we're identical twins. Only we know the differences. We're also dependent on each other because of them. Mion seems more dependent. She always worries about me. If somebody gave her a cookie, she'd divide it in two and give me the one half to me. If somebody gave her candy, she'd wait until I'd said it was okay to eat it. On the contrary, I'm cold. I don't care about others if I'm satisfied. I'd put the candy in my mouth right away. I have to emphasize that I don't hate her, and I'm well aware that she loves me. We both know that. Mion must have been hesitating to put the candy of the successor in her mouth and was waiting to see if I was okay with it. Do your best, Mion. I'll do my best as Shion, too. I tapped her forehead with my fist lightly. Mion put her forehead against my fist as if trying to feel the warmth. She's Mion, and I'm Shion. She's the successor of the Sonozaki family, and I'm just a vagabond. That isn't a distinction, but rather our individuality. We shouldn't worry too much about the other anymore. We should feel relaxed, living as who we are and with our own characteristics. I didn't have to say any of that out loud. We can communicate by touch, just like this. Okay. Thanks, Shion. No worries, Mion. Let's talk to each other whenever we want to, like we've always been. That'll never change, okay? Okay. Mion kept nodding with her forehead against my fist. I said goodbye to Mion before it turned to evening. We had talked all about the things that had happened during my time away, and I enjoyed having that chat between sisters very much. We were able to dissolve our unsettled emotions. We didn't used to do that. Maybe it's because we hadn't seen each other for over a year. Phew. It was late afternoon. My heart felt lighter now. I stretched and looked up at the sky. The sky was clear, blue, and far away. No matter how tall I grow, I'll never be able to touch that sky. I'm Shion Sonozaki, a girl who escaped from the life she was forced to live. Nobody will praise me for what I did and for what I'm going to do, but this is what I chose. I can think maturely, too. I just psyched myself up. I should go shopping for dinner. Though I have Kasai's help, I need to save money. I love junk food, but it'd be cheaper to cook. Ironically, the culinary classes from that evil school will come in handy. Why not go to the shopping district in Kamiishiki? If I'm going there, then I need to take the other street. The cool breeze in the late afternoon felt nice on my skin. Kasai came into the door while I was putting stuff I bought into the fridge. Wait a sec. I'm coming.
Did you go grocery shopping? You must be tired.
I don't get tired from grocery shopping. Oh, do you want dinner? I bought enough for you, too.
Is that all right? If you say so, I'd be happy to.
Kasai looked curious about what I'd cook. You don't look like you believe in my cooking skills. You'll pay for that later.
Are you putting these in the refrigerator? I'll do it.
Oh, thanks. Is this amount of rice enough for two? Here I go. Kasai skillfully packed food into the fridge while glancing at each item in turn. He noticed something.
Shion-san, do you still hate canned food?
I hadn't bought any. That was, of course, on purpose.
It must be hard to avoid it.
I know it's illogical. Maybe I could eat it if somebody forced me to. No, on second thought, I definitely couldn't.
I felt really sorry. I know I was out of line then. Please forget about that story.
Shut up. Men shouldn't hang around in the kitchen. Go watch TV or something. Kasai chuckled and left. I know this sounds stupid, but I hate canned food. If somebody told me that there was canned food in a meal I just ate, I'd throw up. It started with a silly thing. Kasai told me a horror story when I was little. You know, one of those urban legends about meat made from an unknown source? Like those rumors about how there's worm meat mixed into burger patties or dog meat in beef bowls. Kasai had fun telling me one of those stories because of how scared I got. He had fun, but I obviously didn't. I even started to cry in the canned food section of a supermarket, that's how much I hated it. I don't freak out like that anymore, but I still don't like canned food. Since I don't like it, I don't force myself, and now I live my life naturally avoiding canned food. One of the big differences between us twins is that Mion doesn't have that issue. Kasai feels responsible for this, but he can't rid me of that fear. Still, a flaw like this is actually a good thing. Otherwise, I'd be too perfect. Kasai, set the table, would you?
It smells good. Thank you for doing this.
If this isn't enough food, you can go to a beef bowl place later or something. And don't turn off the TV. I hate having dinner in silence.
Thank you for the meal.
So, what is it, Kasai? You came here for something, didn't you? I handed him a cup of tea. I could wait until dinner was over, but I wanted to get to the point quick.
I thought that I should wait until we finished. But would you mind if I talked while eating?
It's been bugging me since you got here. It'd be much easier for me to eat if you started talking now.
We received a phone call from the school today.
Today? That's late. Sounds like they didn't want to make it public. So what happened?
Akane-san took the call. She said she was going to tell your father when the time is right.
Akane-san is my mom. That's what Kasai calls her, as he's known her since before her marriage. So, what did she say? I was lucky she answered the phone, since she's relatively on my side. Other than
calling you a brat, she didn't seem surprised by this outcome.
I see. So she hasn't told Dad yet.
She's probably waiting for the right moment. I think she's going to in a couple of days.
Huh. Dad is on the hag side, so he'll definitely talk to her if he hears about it. Then she'll have her men bring me to her, and depending on my explanation, make me offer a finger or two. Scary.
I wish you could laugh it off, but please remember you're not the only one who... Ouch!
You're eating too fast. I cooked too much rice and miso soup, so you'll have another round. At least 3 helpings, alright? A few days later, Mion told me that the hag had heard about my escape. So, how did she take it? She was furious. She said that if you were in Okonomiya, you'd get your right... She'd get you right away. Scary. And? Is Dad doing anything? They'll hold a family council soon to see if any of the family members are hiding you. It doesn't look like she'll have the greenhorn search for you all over town, though. Holding a family council means that things will remain in the hag's hands alone. She won't search the town for me. It's like she's unofficially approving of my presence. Of course, I'll get caught immediately if they find me in a large public place. Seems like Mom did a lot to help me. I can tell that she's being supportive. It's a long story, but my mom is sort of an outlaw, even though she's of the Sonozaki bloodline. A long time ago, she had a huge fight with the hag because she hated the family rules and traditions. She was even excommunicated. My mom was supposed to be the successor, but she was deprived of the title and Sis took her place instead. While she's quiet now, Mom's still an outlaw. She's always been on my side because I also hate rules and traditions. Dad was flaring up at first, but Mom pacified him. He can't win against her, after all. Okay, thanks. Let me know if something comes up. If things really do go bad, I'm ready to leave town. Can't let Kasai, Uncle Yoshiro, or Mom lose face. Sis, I know what you're thinking. You're asking yourself why only I have to go through this, even though we're twins, aren't you? Mion was silent. That meant yes. It isn't fair that only you have to live like this. It's absolutely not. Thanks. I appreciate your feelings. Tell me when you want to go out. I'll arrange my plans so that I can trade places with you. She sounded apologetic. I shouldn't go quiet or agree with her. She sticks to things a little too much. Once she goes down, she'll stay there for a while. So I just told her simply. Thanks. That's really nice of you. Okay, I'm hanging up now. Talk to you later. New tip. A smudged diary. Satoko was crying while hiding behind my back. She's been crying while clinging onto me, so my back was wet with her tears and snot. My aunt had been screaming hysterically, but she looked tired now. I suddenly realized that it was already past 1 in the morning. She vomited out a series of screams one last time, then finally called it quits. Satoko seemed exhausted. She was looking down in a state of shock. Even after my aunt walked away, she didn't realize she had been freed. So I stroked her head and told her, "It's over, Satoko." Satoko twitched. Her eyes grew bright again and tears rolled down her cheeks. She looked up at my face. She knew it was over, but wanted to hear it directly from me. She begged me with a look. To be honest, I was really exhausted too. So I felt a bit annoyed when she tried to make me say it, but I needed to pacify her. So I gently told her what she wanted to hear. She's done with her scolding, so let's go to sleep, all right? Satoko clung to me while her tears continued to fall. She was crying again silently. Satoko was shivering pitifully. Her small back reminded me that there was nobody else to protect her. Here, go brush your teeth, make your bed, and go to sleep. Satoko smiled faintly and nodded. I felt dizzy. As I was released from the strain, a harsh drowsiness fell upon me. While Satoko was washing her face, I went to the toilet. I zoned out while watching my pee. In my dizziness, I had almost missed the shot. I felt like I was being sucked into the toilet. I couldn't even remember what caused it. Why did my aunt start screaming today? Alright, so I guess that was a preview, because I kind of switched into what I'm probably going to use as Satoshi's voice. So, if you want to give me feedback on that, go right ahead, I guess. Otherwise, that's probably got to be the voice, because it's mostly different from everybody else. Alrighty then. First thing of note, having Mion talk to Shion is a wonderfully easy conversation. I just have to change kind of tone and inflection. And sarcasm, I guess. When Shion speaks, it's a lot of sarcasm. Lots and lots and lots of backstory. And I think this is new information where we learn that the priest was actually supportive of the Hujo's acceptance of it, and that's why he got killed. I think that's new information. If not, it's useful for being like, okay, this is where the connect dots are for why it's like that sort of deal. Like why he was chosen for that year. It connects it to make sense of that's why the priest was chosen, because he was supportive of the rest. So he's connected. So it keeps the trend alive of, yes, this is the curse is doing of taking out outsiders and traitors to the village and sort of things. Because the priest would have been kind of seen as a traitor, at least seen by the town as a traitor, as blatantly stated that the town did seem as a traitor. But from the curse's perspective, you could see where the curse would follow that line of traitorism and whatnot. It also explains this entire thing of them switching places while Shion is working. Also explains the flip-floppy nature of Chapter 2, the Watanagashi Festival, where you could never figure out if it was actually Mion who was there or if it was Shion who was there. Because I assumed at that point, Mion and Shion are still doing this swapping out, so they're never in the same... So both of them are never in the same place at the same time sort of deal. I think that's pretty much what that explained. And then basically set up for the next episode is they kind of did it really quickly at the end of this one. It was she kind of found out and she's kind of annoyed and pissed, and it might become a problem, so... So the next chapter is probably going to be explaining a bit of fallout from that. But yeah, this one, while it was interesting to see kind of like, she's, trying to figure out how to live or whatever, it was a lot of exposition. And here's like one of my criticisms is like they explain the 5-death incident over and over and over again in this series. So if you don't know that there were deaths every year every year on the night of Watanagashi after the damn thing, if you didn't know that by now, then you have not been paying attention because they repeat it so often. It's like, oh, we're doing this again. All right, time to explain every single little detail. And every time they explain it, there's some slight new information every single time. But it's just like, I have to repeat that again. So yeah, not really much from this episode. Looking forward to the next one. See where it goes. The Satoshi thing at the end was probably more present day. Yeah, because they're living with the aunt and the uncle, and the aunt and the uncle, like, a bunch of beaten up. And it would be, because this year is the year where the aunt gets killed and then Satoshi disappears. This is the year for that. This is where this chapter's time period is set. The year before Kiichi comes is the year when Satoshi disappears and the aunt dies. So that smudge note thing is going to be set up for that. So basically that tip is acting as the sub-story that'll be coming to light later down the line in this chapter. I hope for the next chapter we meet some older people, but I don't know how Shion is actually going to interact with like the main cast other than Mion without actually going to Hamanazawa, so maybe the grandmother drags her there to Hamanazawa because they find her, and then she'll meet the cast then or something. I don't know. That'll be interesting. But until then, see you all next time.